Hi, my name's Ken Pearce, and the reason I'm making this video is because I know too many people who are trying to do pottery or ceramics for their first time, or they're rather new into it. I do a lot of demonstrations at public events, and one of the most common things people will come up and tell me is, you know, I used to do that when I was in high school or when I was in college, and I always ask, well, why aren't you still doing it? And the most common answer is, well, I never got good at it. That's kind of sad, because with ceramics, about the only way you can fail is to give up. It is a challenge. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time to learn how to feel the clay. The clay it's a body, and if you think of it as a liquid in a very, very stiff state, it might be easier to understand what you're feeling when you are throwing the clay. Now what I'm doing is wedging the clay, and it's just really doing this. Right? And the idea of this is to squeeze the air out, or pinching it out. You can see as the clay folds here, the bubbles will pop along that edge if there is any in your clay. I remember, if your clay sets out at all, if it sets out even, for 10 minutes, now you've got two different clay bodies. You've got the inner clay body, which is still relatively soft, and the outer body, which has started to firm up already because it is losing moisture as we speak. So that's why right out of the bag even, you want to wedge your clay so that you get the internal and external all mixed up. So let's start. We got the clay on the wheel, we got the power engaged. Now we've got a center. Now, not just putting the clay in the middle of the wheel, no, we have to center it so that the body of the clay is centered. Now, I want you to realize that I'm putting a lot of pressure on this clay. I'm using my left hand. You can see right here where my left hand has contacted the clay, and my right hand, well, it's just all over the place. The left hand is going to be pushing against the side of the clay to keep it from spreading. The right hand is going to be pushing down to compress. Now what I'm going to do is called coning. Coning is the process of bringing the clay up. See how it comes up through my hands? And then we're going to push it back down. But remember, the left hand is keeping it from expanding. Notice it needs pressure. The right hand is pushing it back down. To get the clay to come up, do not put your hands on both sides of the clay and try and pull it up, because all you're going to do is pull the outside of it up around your inside. You want the inside of the clay, the middle. You want to squeeze that right up between your fingers. Now watch it appear between my hands. I'm squeezing the clay with the bottoms, the heels of my hands. This part, I'm squeezing from here, then squeezing the clay up, and it comes up into a cone. Now I've got to push it back down. Now here's a picture for you. These are the ripples in a swimming pool. You can see the water churning about. You can see it because of the sun's reflectivity or that. Anyhow, You can tell that the water is in motion because of the shadows you see in the bottom of the pool. Inside the clay, after that wedging, you have the same problem. You have all these eddy currents going on. That's why we do this coning to start with, so we can get our clay in the middle of the wheel. Do not ever, come on, don't do this. This will get you nowhere. The clay will end up throwing you every which way. Don't do that. Cup that clay. Get intimate with it. Get to know it. How does it feel? How does it feel inside, not just on the outside? Now that you've got the clay centered, I usually pilot hole it with my thumb. Okay, I've got the centering done so I can get rid of the motor. Now we're going to open it, and finding the bottom can be tricky. Okay, I've had years of playing with it, no big deal. But if you're having trouble finding the bottom, take your needle tool and stick it in, put your finger down on the bottom and pull it out, and you can see just how deep your bottom is. That's kind of a good depth right there, especially drying on a bat. If you were going to cut this work from your wheel head, you would want to leave a thicker bottom. But since I'm going to let this project dry on the bat, I can get my bottom to a finished thickness. Now, that first pull, we call this pulling up, but don't let that fool you. This is not a pull. This is also a squeeze. It's a squeeze just like when we're coning, we're squeezing together and pushing that clay up. Now we're going to do the same thing, but with my left fingers on the inside, my right knuckle is going to be on the outside, and I'm going to squeeze them together. And as I squeeze, I'm going to also make a squeezing and upward motion, a squeeze up. And watch what happens as I do that. Here I go. Now, I'm squeezing from the inside to the out, and I'm squeezing it against my right hand. I'm not pushing in with my right hand. My right hand is the anvil. My left hand is the hammer. You want to keep the surface of your clay moistened. It acts as a lubricant so that your clay doesn't catch and twist. And again, now I have just set my fingers, and now I just slowly move towards the top. Now when you're making your pulls and you go inside, you want to, like calipers, right? Like a pair of pincers, a caliper, you don't want to continually squeeze with the same pressure, or you start at the bottom and you start squeezing. By the time you get to the top, you've got a really thin wall. You don't want that. You want your wall the same thickness all the way up and down. So what you want to do is you go in, you set your thickness, and then you come up. Right? Now you have to maintain pressure because the clay is going to want to push your fingers away anyhow. So you have to maintain pressure, but you keep the same distance between your fingers and your knuckle, or whatever. I see some people throw with their fingers on the inside and a sponge on the outside. I see all different kinds of things. But since there's no real wrong way to do it, if it's working, okay? If it's not working, you're doing it wrong. But if it's working, you're doing okay. So, this mug is pretty much in shape, but the walls are still kind of thick. So, how do we deal with that? We pull it up some more. But this is all I want. Okay then, let's just whack some of it off then. Otherwise, it's going to be too tall. To use your needle tool, to cut off, do not just stab in. Do not slow your wheel down and try and slowly cut through it. No, you want good speed on your wheel. You want fingers on the inside to back up the needle. And then you're going to lay your tool against it at an angle and just move inwards. As soon as you feel the needle touch your finger, it's through. And you can then continue. This is used most frequently towards the end of a project when you already have your height, but because you aren't perfectly centered, because you've got a little bit of a lip that you don't want, whatever, many reasons, you can even that top by using your needle tool. Okay, I'm almost as tall as I was before, and I'm getting a much nicer thickness to the wall. Remember, set your fingers like calipers. And maintain a steady climb up the side. Don't be, pinching and pulling on your way up. Just go straight on up.